Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome to my channel, Try Something.Vegetarian on YouTube. This is the broadcast Trump quote, hopes, unquote, US not going to war with Iran. Question mark, actions speak louder than words, World War III in June, question mark. So then I'm gonna turn off the live dashboard. And first, I'm gonna do an intro. So, we see in the news, let's see if I have that article somewhere. Trump hopes, unquote, US not going to war with Iran, meets with Swiss president to discuss, quote, crisis, unquote, in haaretz.com. And on cbsnews.com we see Trump says, quote, I hope not, unquote, when asked if US is going to war with Iran. So basically, actions speak louder than words. So when a president basically has all these sanctions, which are illegal sanctions to many, according to many people, these are illegal sanctions because, or perhaps not according to many people, but in reality they are illegal sanctions when Iran does not have any nuclear weapon. It's clear Israel does have nuclear weapons, and they didn't sign the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty. And all his actions make clear that he has planned a world war. You could argue not just the illegal sanctions, but also a lot of other things he did. There are 28 EU member states that disagree with Trump on the annexation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And he did numerous other things that make clear that he probably is trying to create a world war, to build a third temple. For example, this thing that I've received yesterday, this here, is a third temple coin, and the silver version is like $50, but this version is like $150 on eBay, and it is real metal. It's in a little box. And what does this say? Well, it has a lion holding a sword on it. To fulfill 70 years, it says in Hebrew and in English. So it has several Hebrew, English messages on it. And then there's that great seal of the US. Don't know if you all can see that. It's not very clear. There, that circle over there, not the menorah. And that's basically the eagle holding 13 laurels and 13 arrows. And a message at the bottom. And he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. And the other one has the third temple on it. The way it will look uglier than the Al-Aqsa. The dome-shaped building, you could argue, is nicer with the golden roof, its distinct look, etc. So they want to replace that with another blocky building, basically. Like doves to their nest. So that also has a dove on it, supposedly with an olive branch, the symbol of peace. So they want to do this, create this world war under the guise of creating world peace. But in reality they have a universal war policy. The Jesuits and Masons may have planned this all along. So what else? Let's see, what else do I have in my writings? Oh, then I first have to start that up. We could read the CBS News article, if it's not too long. But perhaps it's better to set the right example and not to read fake news, because they might pretend that the opposite of whatever is true is happening and is true. Starting up my articles. The sanctions on Iran annexation illegal act, see wiki. It's generally considered an illegal act, annexation. Changing the capital of Israel to Jerusalem, and especially the Third Temple coin with Trump on it, and declaring Iran's Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps a terror group, putting them on the same level as ISIS. That especially, you could argue, indicates that he has planned war, because what can they do? I gotta get some tea. So he declared the official Iranian army a terror group, though they are part of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And these things all point in the direction of a Third Temple World War, you could argue. There's also a book by Ingersoll Lockwood, the Ingersoll Lockwood book, 1900 or The Last President, and the other one, Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. So there's nothing weird about that he wrote about Baron Trump, basically. But it is weird, you could argue, because he wrote the book in 1893. And that's a long time before Trump became president, etc. And it has about location of Trump Tower in it and some other stuff. And there's another book that I still have to cover. So my point is, be prepared with a radiological water filter and storable food. I can show the new one that I got recently. I have to stand up, and of course I'm not wearing any trousers. And I should do this broadcast in the nude, you could argue, but people might take me more seriously if I wear a jacket. So, yeah, here I have the Seychelles water filtration. Taste the difference, in quote, BPA free. These thermal tickets that you get, these bonnetjes in Dutch. What are they called? When you shop and you pay for something, you get a ticket? No, that's not the word. Cash, register, print out. Anyway, that's done on thermal paper, and that is not BPA free. So you would have to wash your hands before eating anything. And you can read about BPA online, bisphenol A. So that's poison, it's toxic. And these tickets, these thermal tickets, always discolor basically, so that's a problem. Then after a while you can't read them anymore when you keep them in your pockets, etc. But okay, the water filter, I've got it right here. So I keep it in this packaging. This is the Seychelles, and it takes about 2 weeks and 2 days to receive this from eBay. So if it starts in June the 28th or something, 23rd, that may be the day that they're gonna announce the World Peace Plan, basically. So you still have a month or so to prepare. But there are many people that think they have planned a world war, and that that's probably gonna be nuclear. What percentage of the nukes could they ward off with all that new technology? And what percentage would get through? That's the main question, basically. But it's better to be prepared also for other nuclear events that could occur, meltdowns, etc. So yeah, that was about the book. 4 ways to prevent that world war. I've jotted down somewhere. Thermonuclear world war is too risky. But that's not about the prevention. To prevent a world war over Iran sanctions, 1. Trump is advised not to press ahead with what some would consider illegal sanctions. Iran does not have any nuclear weapon and therefore any sanctions are unjustified. 2. Rouhani is advised not to press ahead with transporting cancer oil to countries Trump has forbidden Iran to transport oil to as part of legal or illegal sanctions. To prevent that world war is more important. And of course, Russia is an ally of Iran. 3. Trump is advised to have an agreement with Russian President Putin before taking any action. And 4. Putin is advised to prevent any type of retaliation if required to prevent World War III and create universal peace instead. Okay. So I just want to read this article about Trump supposedly hoping he's not going to world war with Iran. CBSnews.com, take it away. Well, I had to restart my PC, and then I have to restart the speech engine because I'm not going to read it myself. Of course, I'm way too lazy. Actually, it's so I can do other things while it's reading this. Alright.
Tromp seyo peno buenas que DQS iguan tu var 8 rombi 80 Watson.
Okay.
Trump says I hope not when asked if U.S. is going to war with Iran by Catherine Watson, updated on May 16, 2019, 4:30 p.m., CBS News. President Trump did little to calm fears over escalating tensions with Iran on Thursday, saying he hopes the two countries don't go to war. Mr. President, are we going to war with Iran? A reporter asked as Mr. Trump greeted the Swiss president at the White House. I hope not, Mr. Trump responded. Joining News Flynn's revelation Ohio State doctor abuse flawed Iran intel. Great White Shark Cluster. The U.S. pulled most of its personnel from neighboring Iraq as U.S. officials said they believe.
So yeah, you could argue it's a satanic inversion. They simply pretend that the opposite of whatever is true is the truth, basically. Jesuits and Masons. So the Jesuits are a military order, and Trump was at the dinner table with Hillary. You can see his video also talking about globalization, etc. So they're a military order posing as a religious order, and that's part of their warfare. Psychological warfare is part of the real war, not the info war, but the real war. So they've planned to exterminate 7 billion people and rule the world from Jerusalem. And Trump works for them, not against them, of course.
Iranian combat drivers were responsible for attacks on 4 oil tankers near the Persian Gulf. The U.S. insists the threat posed by Iran is intensifying, even as allies claim that isn't the case.
So all intelligence agencies are Masonic and controlled by the Jesuits. And their leader at the moment is Arturo Sosa, not what they call the Pope, the White Pope. They call the leader the Black Pope, so in black robes symbolizing the evil, satanic tendencies, etc. So the Jesuits are famous for a number of things, but one thing is the pedophilia, the pedophilic priests, etc., because they paid more in these pedophile cases than anybody else. Besides that, they're most famous for their Inquisition, torturing 50 million innocent people to death. And I've exposed the Jesuits and Masons and Skull and Bones more in my previous broadcasts. So John Kerry is a member of Skull and Bones, and I don't know what his current function is. But I've covered his previous function and everything in other broadcasts you can find on this channel. Try Something Vegetarian on YouTube. Try Something.Vegetarian.
Trump U.S. Switzerland President Trump welcomes Switzerland's federal president Elie Maurer, right, to the White House on Thursday, May 16, 2019, in Washington. Andrew Harnick, Mr. Trump balked at a New York Times report earlier this week that said the U.S. is preparing to send up to 120,000 troops to the Middle East to manage Iran if necessary, but he didn't dismiss the possibility of considering troops in the future if necessary. "I think it's fake news, okay?" the president told reporters on the South Lawn Tuesday. "Now, would I do that? Absolutely, but we have not planned for that. Hopefully we're not going to have to plan for that, and if we did that, we'd send a hell of a lot more troops than that." The president also told Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan that he does not want war with Iran. CBS News' David Martin confirmed. The New York Times first reported the remark, which Mr. Trump made during a Situation Room meeting Wednesday. The U.S. announced earlier this week it's imposing new sanctions on Iran on the one-year anniversary.
So we call CNN fake news. It's a systemic inversion. If they erase my thought, I'll have to recall it. Also, on other levels, they pretend the opposite is true. They pretend that Iran is the bad guy, though Bush and Netanyahu are both responsible for the use of the depleted uranium war crime, the use of depleted uranium. And they pretend that the same thing of Iraq, that Iraq was producing a weapon of mass destruction, chemical weapons. And there are videos of Bush admitting that they lied and they didn't have weapons of mass destruction after 1 million dead Iraqis and these depleted uranium kids are still being born, etc. Because it has a half-life of 4.5 million or billion years, depleted uranium. So, but there were other things. Perhaps I'll pause the video again when I recall it.
Of the U.S. withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, Tehran has deemed those sanctions unacceptable. Tehran can expect further actions unless it fundamentally alters its conduct, Mr. Trump said in a statement announcing the new sanctions. Since our exit from the Iran deal, which is broken beyond repair, the United States has put forward 12 conditions that offer the basis of a comprehensive agreement with Iran. I look forward to someday meeting with the leaders of Iran in order to work out an agreement and, very importantly, taking steps to give Iran the future it deserves. Some members of Congress, including Mr. Trump's allies, have expressed frustration about not having a clearer idea of what the administration intends to do regarding Iran.
Well, another thing is these rocket attacks. So, on the side of the Palestinians, there are a lot more deaths than on the Israeli side because they have the Iron Dome, etc. It's all covered in previous broadcasts about this subject, a possible world war for Iran on this channel. Because if that's going to happen, then all the other things don't really matter anymore, do they?
Republican Sen. Lindsey Graham told reporters Thursday he had not been briefed about the withdrawal of U.S. personnel from Iraq this week. "That's disappointing and unacceptable," Graham said about the lack of communication between the administration and members of Congress. "I would tell the administration, you should pick up the phone and call members of Congress so that we don't have a microphone put in our face. Ask us about why you're doing something when we have no clue." On Thursday, Sen. Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, confirmed that the full Senate would be briefed by the administration next week, on Tuesday.
Okay, I can read some of the text of my next broadcast. Selecting some text while against causing Tachinales plane flies over. I take it from thermonuclear world war is too risky.
Thermonuclear world war is too risky. 1. The Earth could spin off axis. It is clear nuclear tests caused earthquakes and the Earth is already wobbling. The fact is, people have never set off that many multiple nukes simultaneously, and if the Earth would spin off axis, could that be the end of humanity? Or would it be the end of skiing, Antarctica and the Sahara? If the Earth could rupture along the Ring of Fire, could that be the end of all of us? 2. It is possible none without a Tesla plasma shield would survive a scalar world war. 3. Mutually assured destruction, MAD, recreation would be automatic, there is no human decision involved, a 7-year nuclear winter would follow. Combined with directed energy weapons, chemical and biological weapons, could it cause the end of civilization or even humanity? For example, 2 biological weapons are released, both enemies only have a cure for their own biological weapon. Prevent the annual. How many people are working on that? World War III. Fierce spike of Iran planning terror attacks across Europe after Paris plot. US News Today 23 views 7 months ago. Nothing is worth fighting for. Safety first. Attack on Iran to start WW3 in WONE Christ Bilderberg agenda. Fight Pray John Riggs 6543214 479 views 8 years ago. Guam fenced city will be hid May 21 Street 2019 by Iran/N. Korea to start WW3 452 views 21/7 share save. China, Russia and Iran are preparing for WW3 BNTV World War III news. BNTV 33 views 3 months ago May 13, 2019. Freedom on religion, Iran trades threats with the USA, 96 views. My radiological water filter was ordered April 28 and arrived today, the 14th of May. So it took 2 weeks and 2 days for the water filter to reach me. A maggot is a brain-dead admirer of Donald Trump and his slogan, How to Deal with Maggots. Medium.com August 27, 2018. Make the world great, I get it. Or making the world greater than, make the world greater. MTWG. BB stands for, be prepared, or not. Our brain is mic'd, so to speak. One theory, their world war will center around Europe. This is why Great Britain left the EU or attempted to. Watch, all 28 EU membership states reject Israeli sovereignty over the Golan and slammed Trump's proclamation. HD streamed, April 9, 2019 at 6:22 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Try Something.Vegetarian, Rothschild and Company address, New Court, St. Swithin's Lane, London EC4N8AL, UK. The history of the House of Rothschild, they funded both sides in almost all modern wars since the Napoleonic Wars. If my sons did not want war, there would be none. Guttelschnapper Rothschild, Viral. This is what the Rothschilds want. Creating chaos so that the people beg for order. You speak hate speech and fall into their trap. Channel the yellow vest energy. Complete history of the House of Rothschild. Rothschild cartel behind the rise of Hitler, also funding communism, socialism and world war. Rothschild dollar exposed. $500 trillion worth includes Bank of England, Reuters News, Associated Press, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNBC, CNN, Royal Dutch Shell, Israel, Federal Reserve, US/UK governments, CIA, NATO, half of world Israel Minister President Trot.wordpress.com, who owns the Federal Reserve, the Rothschilds and the Vatican. 911 was an Israeli Zionist false flag attack. Ken O'Keefe, you don't own yourself. Rothschild's Federal Reserve does. We are approaching the final part of the New World Order's plan, World War III. The plan has existed for around 100 years and is a combined Zionist Rothschilds International Masons Illuminati product. Interestingly, the Zionist flag of Israel consists of the symbols of both the Illuminati and the Masons, two triangles. What were the effects of the subversion of Freemasonry by the Jews? Within the organization, Masonry is based upon Judaism. Eliminate the teachings of Judaism from the Masonic ritual and what is left?
So I don't know what the source of this is. New World Order's plan, World War III. The plan has existed for around 100 years and is a combined Zionist, Rothschilds, International Masons, Illuminati product. Illuminati is a front for the Jesuits, so I thought that person left out Jesuits, so I didn't write that. But it may be part of that video or some... I usually jot down the source, so it may be somewhere. But you can easily Google everything.
Interestingly, the Zionist flag of Israel consists of the symbols of both the Illuminati and the Masons, two triangles. What were the effects of the subversion of Freemasonry by the Jews? Within the organization, Masonry is based upon Judaism. Eliminate the teachings of Judaism from the Masonic ritual and what is left? The Jewish Tribune, New York, October 28, 1927. In the present nations, Freemasonry is only of benefit to the Jews. Theodor Herzl, founder and leader of World Zionism, we have founded many secret associations, which all work for our purpose, under our orders and our direction. One of the many triumphs of our Freemasonry is that those Gentiles who become members of our lodges, should never suspect that we are using them to build their own jails, upon whose terraces we shall erect the throne of our universal King of the Jews, and should never know that we are commanding them to forge the chains of their own servility to our future King of the world. Opening speech made at the B'nai B'rith Convention in Paris, published in the Catholic Gazette, February 1936. Source, Facebook. Welcome to the thought revolution at Imagine a World with no corruption. They funded both sides in almost all modern wars since the Napoleonic Wars. conspiracystruths.co.uk/Rothschilds.html, 1849, Telschnaper, Meyer Emskol.
Imagine a world without corruption. That's quite easy to do with a synthetic telepathy machine. As described in the Malig patent, the apparatus to remotely monitor and alter brain waves. They could use that to create a better world, but they are using it to only benefit themselves at the cost of the 7 billion humans that are sabotaged mainly by sabotaging the brain waves. So the main advantage that they have is also being able to show, for example, a chess player the move he needs to make with a neural network in their skull with illegal voice-to-skull messages, and by showing them visions, even of the future as seen through their own eyes. So it's a synthetic telepathy machine, and that neural network will never be the creator of heaven and earth, so it will never become God.
Rothschild's wife dies. Before her death she would state, "If my sons did not want wars, there would be none." Planetization.org/Rothschild.htm. So how many people are prepared with a radiological water filter? And how many nukes would reach their targets? Gutel Rothschild, also Gtel or Gugula, Nationapper, born August 23, 1753 in Frankfurt, May 7, 1849. Ibid, was the wife of the banker Meyer Amschel Rothschild, founder of the Bank Rothschild. She survived her husband for more than 37 years and was one of the Frankfurt celebrities in her last third of life, when House Rothschild was one of the most influential European banks. The anti-social media, some of the most popular social media websites, with over 100 million registered users, include Facebook, and its associated Facebook Messenger, YouTube, WeChat, Instagram, QQ, Xone, Weibo, Twitter, Tumblr, Telegram, Reddit, Baidu, LinkedIn, Line, Snapchat, Pinterest, Viber, MeWe, and VK. If these people want to annihilate 7 billion of us like they wrote they do, doing Europe won't cut it. They are going after China and India because each country has 3 times the amount of citizens the US has. Europe has about 741 million citizens. Countries in the world by population: 2018, China 1.4 billion, India 1.4 billion, US 327 million. The Committee of 300, the subversive body of the Club of Rome, wants to reduce the US population with 100 million according to sources online which I will not reveal for safety reasons. World War III 2019 main target countries: Rothschild, US, Europe, India, China, Russia.
So yeah, that's gonna be my next broadcast. And I'm gonna keep that secret so that I don't create repetitive content too much. So it's overlapping a bit, but I make corrections and add and subtract the text. So I never make the same broadcast twice. Yeah, that's the top 3 of countries with most people. China 1.4 billion, India 1.4 billion, and US 327 million. So they're both countries with most people. India and China have 3 times more people than the US. Almost 4 times. Yeah, about 4 times the population of the US lives in India, both in India, and 1.4 billion in China as well. Yeah, so that's it for this broadcast. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next one about Rothschilds. World War III 2019 main target countries: Rothschild, US, Europe, India, China, Russia. Is the next broadcast I'm gonna make. So if you want to hear more about the role of the Rothschilds, you can check that. For universal peace, of course, do stuff for universal peace. Think about whether the people could do anything to prevent this world war, protests, etc. But it's clear what my advice is, so I advise everybody, leaders especially, to do things to prevent a 3rd world war, to prevent the end. With all these weapons of mass destruction surrounding us, retaliation would be automatic. There would be no human decision involved with the DEFCON system. So it's good to keep that in mind. Take steps towards peace rather than war. Universal peace. They have a secret, a true universal war policy and an open, false world peace policy. Jesuits and Masons. So I'm gonna have some more tea with chamomile and green tea. I've discovered that recently, with honey. And some breakfast, etc. So see you all on the other side. Peace out. Please like and subscribe. And share this important video on your timeline for universal peace.